Welcome to the very first episode of The Pull List, a little YouTube series that I'm going to try about new comics, old comics, comic stuff in general. This is in no way my attempt to justify my comic book obsession. I'm gonna try to start a bit of a book club for comics, a comic book club, if you will. New releases as they come out, graphic novels, etc., etc. To follow along, you can pick one or many of the titles that I'm going to be reading and videoing about, and we can talk about them in the comments and junk. And I have some interviews lined up with some comic book shop owners, so this should be a fun little series. But let's get to it, The Pull List, Episode 1. Anyone who knows my comic book collecting habits knows that I'm a big fan of The Amazing Spider-Man. These right here are all of the Amazing Spider-Man issues that I own. They almost need their own long box. This is the oldest Amazing Spider-Man that I own, issue number 112. Comics were so much cheaper back then. And I have this little beauty, signed by Stan the Man himself. In this video, I'm going to be primarily focusing on The Amazing Spider-Man issue number 700. Now, you could start with issue 698 and read 699 and 700 and follow the storyline fine. The story arc actually began back in issue number 600 and is kind of been brewing behind the scenes. Otto Octavius, or Dr. Octopus, was introduced in Amazing Spider-Man number 3 and has since become one of Spider-Man's most iconic villains. In issue 600, Otto learns that because of all the beatings that he's endured over the years from, frankly, Spider-Man, he only has about one more year to live. Issue number 700 is a 52-page finale that finally settles the score between Doc Ock and Spider-Man. And it honestly has one of the biggest plot twists since Amazing Spider-Man debuted Spider-Man's black suit. If you don't want to be spoiled on issue number 698, 699, and 700, you might want to stop the video. I have a note in the information to let you know when the spoilers are going to end, but the spoilers are going to start right now. Peter actually loses the battle with Dr. Octopus and dies, but that's not actually the biggest twist in the story. Doc Ock does this mind swap, Freaky Friday type thing with Peter, so Peter is actually trapped in Doc Ock's old withered body, while the good doctor is basically reborn into Spider-Man's body. With literally minutes left to live, with Peter trapped inside Doc Ock's crippled body, he does everything that he can to try to get his body back, and he fails. Instead, right before Doc Ock's body is about to die, Peter tries to instill all of his memories and values onto Otto's consciousness, the ones that made him Spider-Man. In a surge of empathy, Otto vows to steer clear of villainy and protect New York as Spider-Man. Otto Octavius now claims that he has the physical might and the good values of Peter Parker, but he also has the boundless ambition and the scientific mind frame of Otto Octavius. He says that he will surpass Amazing Spider-Man and become Superior Spider-Man. Issue number 1 of Superior Spider-Man is due out January 9th, and that's where the story is going to pick up. The artwork of this issue was expressive and fun, and the story was very well written. It had me on the edge of my seat the entire issue, but just after it was over, wasn't exactly sure how to feel. I heard around the time that issue number 690 came out that something was going to happen in issue number 700 to prevent Peter Parker from ever being Spider-Man again. I knew that Peter wasn't just going to give up being Spider-Man. He's tried that before a few times. It doesn't work for him. I knew that he had to die. But to have somebody else's consciousness in Spider-Man, and of all people, Doc Ock, I wasn't sure how to feel. I mean, it made me feel suspicious. But then after it bounced around in my head for a few days, I thought, maybe my suspicions are a good thing. Imagine living in a city and all of a sudden there was this meta-human that showed up, beating up bad guys. You might be a little suspicious, and that's how most of New York felt when Spider-Man just showed up out of nowhere. J. Jonah Jameson might have had the right idea. He's a menace, I tell ya! Then again, Peter did an info dump thing to get Otto to see the light. He showed him all the key moments of his life in about 20 seconds. I'm hoping that the shift from villain to hero will be this long redemption arc that they start in Superior Spider-Man. That'd probably be a good way to go with it. Marvel executives are saying that Otto being Spider-Man is permanent, but there are a lot of people who are cynical about that whole thing. Peter's dead? Really? One of Marvel's biggest flagships just gone, up and changed, just a different person? Yeah, we've seen that before, is probably what they're saying. Who knows, maybe Peter's memories and Otto's villainy will be like fighting each other in a split personality thing, and then Peter's memories will overcome and he'll all of a sudden be Spider-Man again. I don't know. But what I liked about the story arc is that it was not marketed as the death of Spider-Man. They did that with Batman, they did that with Superman. I'm really, really glad that Marvel didn't do this whole big just publicity stunt to make money right there on the cover. Before reading issue number 700, if you were able to avoid spoilers by pesky YouTubers just talking about plot points, then you had no idea if Peter was going to live or die. But with Otto as Spider-Man, like it or not, it opens up an entire realm of possibilities. He's one of the smartest scientists on the planet, and that means more gadgets and tech for Spider-Man. Also, imagine how he'll be able to see himself as Peter saw him. It could change his opinion on his former foe and his former self. Will having a new Spider-Man with such a rich Spider-Man history already, expanding the Spider-Man mythology, be such a bad thing? I guess we'll have to wait and see. Okay, end spoilers. but maybe you shouldn't read the comments, just to be safe. All in all, I think Marvel now is doing a great job of clearing the decks, redefining characters, while still sticking with continuity. Much better than DC ever did with their go-for-broke New 52 reboots. As you can tell, I'm more of a Marvel fan than a DC fan. Alright, that about does it for this episode of The Pull List. Let me know your opinions on The Amazing Spider-Man issue number 700, and will you be sticking around for Superior Spider-Man? And what titles do you think we should follow for our comic book club? Like I said, I'm more of a Marvel fan than a DC fan, but I'm open to suggestions. Let me know in the comments what you guys want to read.